This one is a little bit spicy, but it's so needed to tell anyone because sometimes you even need a little bit of sass before you get the point across and they finally clue in, hey, maybe I shouldn't be pushing this person's boundary. Hello, my love. Welcome back to Arouse for another episode. And if you're new around here, welcome. I am Sam, your host and personal life coach for today. And today's episode is This is what boundaries sound like. And some of these are a little spicy, but they are much needed to know. So let's get into all the tea. Warning, the following presentation is intended for mature audiences. It includes stigma topics like sex, addictions, mental illness, adult dialogue, and strong language. Viewer discretion is advised. Alrighty then. This is something that every woman should know. What boundaries sound like. Because in the online space, I talk about setting boundaries a lot, but here are some real examples. And it comes from the Instagram account at Bless the Messy, and I will make sure to link their profile in the show notes so you can go over there and follow them if you'd like. But I found these were really helpful to lay out what boundaries would sound like in a real conversation. So number one is if you continue to speak to me that way, I'll have to end this conversation. This can be used if someone's starting to raise their voice at you, their tone is getting derogatory, or they're just being blatantly disrespectful. This is a perfect example of how to make the conversation end pretty much. Well, if you're going to continue to speak to me that way, I'm going to have to end this conversation. Boom. Done. Number two, I appreciate your input, but this is my decision. This is perfect for when someone is trying to give you any unsolicited advice or an unsolicited opinion about something that you're going to do. I actually said this to my mom the other day. I was like, oh, well, it's my decision. Like, cool that, this is your opinion, but it's my decision to make. There's so many different ways to go about this, but ultimately, if you want to be really respectful about it and be the bigger person, then say, I appreciate your input, but this is my decision. And if they don't listen, just continue to say this over and over and over again till it sticks to that thick skull of theirs. Number three, if you comment on my weight, I will need to remove myself. This one is vital for anyone that has body dysmorphia, is in or recovering from an eating disorder. I really don't like it when people comment on my body weight, my body shape, anything like that, especially when people tell me that I've lost too much weight, because recently I have lost weight. I used to be about 180 or 185 pounds during COVID, and I'm about 145 now. So at least last time I weighed myself, which was about a week ago, just because I was curious, since the last time I weighed myself was back in November and I was 150 pounds soaking wet in a bathing suit. So I was like, wonder if I'm about the same, because people have even said that I've lost more weight. So I was curious. But there are certain people that I will say this to where it's like, don't comment on my weight, please. But this is a great example of how to be respectful of that. If you comment on my weight, I will need to remove myself. And you have to set that boundary. It's like, well, there's more important things to me than just my physical appearance or the number on the scale of whatever you think is healthy. But why don't we talk about something else? Like maybe we should talk about a different topic rather than my weight, because I don't think that's the most important thing here. Number four, I won't be able to make that event, but thanks for the invite. I love this one. And I've talked about this in a previous episode where you don't have to say yes, and making sure that you say no to things that you maybe just don't have space for or something that you just don't fucking want to go to. There's events that I've been invited to and I'm like, I really don't want to go to that. And I have just said, thanks for inviting me. I'm not available, or, I already have plans that day. But make sure they tell you the date before you say this, because I have been caught in this a couple times where I've jumped the gun and I'm like, oh, thanks for the invite, but I'm not able to make it. And they're like, I didn't tell you when the date was. And then I'm like, fuck. So then later on, then I'm like, oh, actually, sorry, something came up and I'm not able to come anymore. And I've saved my butt. But don't make the same mistake that I did. Make sure you have them tell you the date and the time of it first. And I mean, people are still going to ask you, oh, why can't you make it? Or why can't you move things around? You could just say, I'm just not available. Like, I have plans, or I'm busy, or whatever. Or if they're like really stingy, just be like, I already have something at the same time and I've already committed to that. So I'm not going to cancel on something I've already committed to because I'm a woman of my word. It can be simple, or you could just leave it at, you just repeat, I'm not able to come, but thanks for inviting me. And you can just repeat these over and over again till the people that have the really thick skulls finally get it to sink in. Number 5, could you give me a call before you come over? This one I absolutely hate when people show up unannounced, because not only do I like to have my space somewhat presentable, I'm not always crazy clean and tidy as much as I would love to be, because ADHD kind of hinders that a little bit, although I try my best. I don't like it when people show up unannounced. I also don't know if I have space to show up for someone else that day. There's been times where I've been home and my mom says, oh, this person's coming over. And it's like, okay, well, I'm actually not going to be here. Whether I pretend I have plans or not, I check in with myself quickly when my mom says that. And it's like, do I have space to be social with these people that are coming over? No. Whether I'm going to pretend to have plans or actually have plans and just be like, I'm busy, I'm not going to be home. That's kind of a way too. Like if you live with your parents like I do, or you have roommates, then you can literally just like leave or pretend you have plans and go do something by yourself. But if you own your own place, like you live by yourself or whatever, and someone shows up unannounced, you also don't have to answer the door when they ring it. You don't have to. As long as your blinds are closed and they can't see inside your house, you're pretty much safe. And you could just pretend, hey, like, I'm in the bath, like, this is not a good time. Or I'm on the toilet and I have diarrhea. I have literally used that excuse and people are like, whoa. So I'm not afraid to embarrass myself at any extent. But if someone tries to show up unannounced, it's like, you know what? I have diarrhea right now. Next time, give me a call before you come over, because I'm in a very vulnerable situation and I can't host people right now. And people are very understanding, whether it's real or not. They don't need to know that. But if you really need a reason to like get people to fucking understand that, it's like, I have diarrhea right now. You can't come in. I'm busy. Next time, give me a call or text me before you want to come over, and I'm going to let you know if it's a good time or not. Because this is another thing where unless you stick to your boundaries, people are going to potentially walk all over you. Number 6, I'm uncomfortable talking about that. This is very broad because things that I'm uncomfortable talking about are going to be very different from things that you're uncomfortable talking about. For example, I talk about my sobriety and how I've used it to suppress trauma, PTSD, abuse in my life. I also talk about how I had an eating disorder, how I was raped when I was 17 by my adult boyfriend at the time. Like, I've talked about a lot of stigma topics that actually make some people very uncomfortable. But for me, I'm okay talking about that. However, if someone is uncomfortable talking about that and they bring that up in conversation, I respect it. And it's like, okay, that's a limit for you. I get that. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about this, or let's play a card game. Something to get off the topic. But you have to voice that, or you're just going to sit there being uncomfortable and that person will never know. You have to voice your opinion. You have to speak your voice and embrace it in order for people to also respect you and your boundaries. Speak up. Number 7, I'm excited to spend time together, but I'll only have a few hours. And this is another thing that I've done for myself as well. This goes back to another episode when I talk about limiting time with people that suck your soul or people that deplete you. And this can go with that as well. However, I also like to limit my time with certain people because sometimes I like to spend more time with other people, like my partner. I like to spend hours on end with him. But other friends of mine, I only like to account for 2 to 3 hours, depending on the person. I mean, when it comes to my girlfriends, I could spend like 3 days straight with them and never get sick of them. But there's other people where it's like, I like to limit 2 to 3 hours tops, not because they deplete me. It's just that's all I can offer that person. I can only show up as my best self for that person for max 2 hours. And then after, I do get kind of tired of social interaction because maybe we're just not super great friends or whatever it is. And it's like, I just need to limit myself. So I have actually said this to quite a few people that it's like, hey, like, I'm excited to see you, but just remember that it's like, I'm going to be gone by 6, or it's like, I have to leave by 6 o'clock or whatever time it is. And they're like, hey, you know what? That's fine. And normally people don't ask questions. Sometimes people do. And it's just like, I'm busy or I have plans. And it's like, I want to spend time with you too. But it's like, I have plans with other people or whatever you want to say. So sticking to your boundaries is vital to make sure that you're not overworking yourself, spreading yourself too thin. People aren't walking over you all the time and bulldozing you and taking advantage of you. So I hope these examples were helpful. Make sure to check out at Bless the Messy on Instagram, because that's where I found this graphic from. And let me know in the comments or in a 5-star rating and review what was your favorite part of today's episode. Make sure that you're following and subscribed to the podcast or any of my social media accounts, especially my YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed to that as well, so that you get notifications on new episodes and content that is always coming out to help you in your journey. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next episode.